Hello, everyone. This week at Nurturing Wellbeing with Kurt Kelly, we turn and take a national approach. I have a great guest, one that is recognized probably all over the United States, maybe all over the world. He had worked with years with CNN as a commentator, and he was also a U.S. Senator. That's Senator Rick Santorum. Rick is going to be talking about the Family Leave Act. I got to tell you, this is a real important topic as we look to nurture well-being at the beginning of a child's life, how they can spend time bonding and the science about bonding with mothers and families, or their mothers and fathers in the family, as we are working to give them time to be able to have that time of bonding. And so there's some legislation that's being looked at federally, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. But the introduction of this episode is another good friend, and that's Liza McFadden. Liza is an expert in this arena in her own right, is very active here in Florida. And so I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation with Liza McFadden and then Senator Rick Santorum. There's a national movement that's taking place, and it's called the Family Leave Act. It's giving children and families an opportunity to bond together and see the science that takes place there. This was introduced to me by a young lady that probably for many folks here in Florida doesn't need any introduction, yet she is well known for much of her work that she's done in the philanthropic world and compassion world. But she brings such a brilliant business sense. Liza McFadden. Liza has her own business now. It's called Liza and Partners. And she is the one that came to me and asked me if I wanted to get involved. And of course, you can't tell Liza no. So, and I wasn't going to anyhow. Liza, welcome. I want you to introduce, before we bring Senator Santorum on, I want you to introduce the Family Leave Act concept and how Floridians can get involved.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is talking about paid family leave from the perspective of, is there a way to do it that doesn't break the bank? So, for example, Senator Rubio has a bill that would allow you to access, when you adopt a child or when you have a child, your Social Security now and use it for a couple of months. And then you would have that reduction later in life. But it's a great way that doesn't create another federal bunch of money. It doesn't make small businesses nervous. And it provides that opportunity for us to have a conversation around, why is paid family leave important? And I think it's so important because of strengthening families. Gets all back to the title of this program.
And so we're going to be joining forces. This isn't our primary area, but in nurturing well-being, it's clearly an area that we want to engage. And so we're going to be joining forces with you and others that you're helping coordinate around the state on this area. I know in your personal life, this is very important to you, but also the fact that you are now working with some national folks across the nation as we are trying to get some momentum with this. Thank you for introducing me to Senator Santorum again, and I look forward to this interview, and thank you for your time and your work, and I'm sure we're going to have many opportunities to talk about this as we move forward in the next couple of months and years.
Great. Thanks, Kurt. We really appreciate your involvement.
Thank you, Liza. God bless. We are blessed to have a nationally renowned personality, as well as a well-known children and family advocate, Senator Rick Santorum. Senator, welcome.
Thank you, Kurt. Good to be with you. And thank you for the work you do.
Well, and we're so glad to have you here today. I'm just going to give a little bit of, I don't know that you need an introduction, a lot of our folks, but some of our folks are not as political. I will tell you, we were talking a little bit off camera here that I first met Senator Santorum back in 2000, I believe in 11, at an event in Orlando. At that time, I think you were trying to make a decision if you were going to run for president. And when you decided to run for president, you did quite well. You were the silver medalist.
Yes.
What that simply means is you didn't win.
I did well everywhere else.
Yeah. I won't. We'll have to go off camera and talk about the Florida experience. But I can tell you that you did very well. I think you won 11 primaries, if I recall, which was really impressive. And you were probably best known here recently that you have been a senior political commentator for CNN And then I see you probably almost every other night on some program across the nation as you're addressing key issues in politics. But I think what you're best known for, and what you were known for as a U.S. Senator, had a strong, passionate belief in the value of family. Now, you live that because I hear that you have 8 children. And so you live that passion for children and families. And I would like you to maybe, just as we begin to start off today, tell us a little bit about your family. How's it doing? And then maybe the value of family. What does it really mean to us, and how we could all get behind this effort that we're going to talk about today?
Well, thank you, Kurt. And of all the things I've done in my life, I'm most proud of the work that I've done within my own house as a husband and father. And I always say to people, other people can be a senator, other people can be a congressman, but only one person can be, the husband to my wife and the father to my children. And
Amen.
You're sort of the indispensable person in that regard. And I take that, very, very seriously. And the opportunity that you're given to form a life and put them on a path to success and to heaven. That's sort of the bottom line for me. And we've had 8 children. We have one of those children is in heaven. We lost shortly after birth. Our youngest is a special needs little girl. She has trisomy 18, which is a very serious disability. We've been blessed now for 13 years to be able to care for her and continue to care for her, and will for the rest of her life. That's, some people look at that as a burden. We in this family have recognized the incredible blessing that she brings to us. And we even wrote a book about it. It's called, her name is Bella. My wife and I wrote a book called Bella's Gift. And the rest of our children are doing great. They're thankfully healthy. And we have 3 that are married. We have 1 getting married in 2 weeks. If you ever saw the movie Father of the Bride, I'm going through a Steve Martin Father of the Bride experience right now, because the wedding reception's in our backyard. So we've watched that movie several times this year, and everyone says, "That's you, Dad. That's it. You're him." So it's been an exciting year. So the family's great. We feel very, very blessed. And maybe it's from my own experiences, my family growing up, and also this family that I'm in right now is, how central the family is to the vast majority of people's lives, and how important it is for raising the next generation. I wrote a book back in 2004 called "It Takes a Family." It was in response to Hillary Clinton's book, "It Takes a Village." And not that obviously a village is important, but at the essential element that I think has been fractured and hurting in America today is the family. And I made the call for conservatives to start putting family policy up where we put all the other things that conservatives tend to agree with, which is, we need limited government and pro growth and all these sorts of things. What about doing things to strengthen not just the economy but the family? We tend to give it short shrift as conservatives. We talk about it, we value it, but we don't really do anything in our public lives to try to support it. And so I sort of made the case that we need to look at public policy ideas that can support a changing family dynamic in America. We're not the same country as we were 50 years ago from the standpoint of the family, and policies that may have worked 50 years ago aren't working today, and we need to do something about it.
That's a wonderful point made. My organization that I run is neither conservative or liberal. It's a combination of both. We have a lot of folks. I was up on the Hill probably 3 or 4 years ago visiting with some congressmen, and again, from my background, I'm a Republican. I served with Marco Rubio, which and he works in this arena with us as well. And I went on the Hill, and I had a chance to go into a Democratic office. And after it was, as we were sitting in there, we were talking a little politics, and I said, "Well, ma'am, I'm going to tell you, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat on this issue. I'm the Child Welfare Party." And this person said, "Ooh, I want to be a part of that party." And I said, "Well, good, because really, this is one that transcends. We may have different nuances in the way it can be implemented, but it transcends public party animus. And I can tell you that as I hear you talking, I think one of the saving graces for America will be when we come back and refocus our attention around issues that affect the families. When we deal a lot of times with the family issues, we're seeing them in crisis. We're seeing there's been a major breakdown. We're seeing that the moms and the fathers, if there's a family unit, a lot of times there's substance abuse. There's a lot of anger and frustration. There's history around that, and then the kids become these victims that get poured into our system. And frankly, they shouldn't be in anybody's system but their family. And so, what I love, what you and sort of taking a national leadership on, is a way to be able to help strengthen that bond at that early age, at that early beginning, and just being able to spend that time from birth with the family and being able to support that. I think that's a critical thing that we have to continue to address. And so I love this. And that's what I want to camp around today is the Family Leave Act. I believe that and I'll tell our audience, I was invited to be a part of a delegation of 10 here in Florida to listen to a webinar symposium. I was taking copious notes on certain things, but the science behind this was amazing. In fact, there was a couple of times that almost led me to tears when I was thinking about that bondable moment. There's all kind of science about what happens. And I thought of the little picture that I had of my daughter, who now is 32, an attorney in Washington. But I was looking at that picture, and she's gazing into my eyes with this unbelievable trust. The picture just caught it. And I'm looking at her, and there's that bonding stuff. And I know that happens with the mother, and that takes time to develop those relationships over a period of time. I think we're doing a disservice because of just even the economics of folks sometimes, and they just get thrust right back into in their world, and we lose that. And so I think that you are really championing an unbelievable thing that's a great thing, and we want to help you and be a part of it, at least from a conversation and an awareness piece of that. The Florida Coalition for Children, what we do, we deal with abused, abandoned, neglected, and at-risk children. Florida has a system of care that, frankly, Jeb Bush really championed when he was governor. And we went to what we would call a privatized system. I don't like that. We're a community-based care system. Because it does take families and it takes communities, faith communities and others to wrap around these families. And so what we've done here in Florida, we think we're strategically positioned to really help in healing a lot of these issues. And so I think that's why this issue really caught my attention when it was brought to me. Let's talk about, how did you get involved in and becoming an advocate for the Family Paid Leave Act, and tell our audience a little bit about it.
Well, I gave you a little insight. I wrote this book back in 15 years ago, 16 years ago about the centrality of family as part of public policy. And one of the things that I was really focused on is to talk to Republicans, because I had worked in the area of child welfare, was one of the principal authors of the Welfare Reform Act back in 1996. So I've been engaged in family policy only because, as a Christian, I understand the importance of being, mothers and fathers and families, and it's common sense. But as you mentioned, it's also the science of how important that family life is for raising a healthy next generation of Americans. And so, I've always been, as a legislator, interested in these things. And as you mentioned, the dynamic of the family has changed dramatically. A majority of children in America today are going to be raised without a father in the home at some point in time. Single parenthood is becoming more the norm than the exception. And that makes family life harder. You can argue one way or another, but the reality is, the science is, common sense is, children are best when they have a mom and a dad who's nurturing and supporting them and bonding with them and giving them the best chance. And so, what can we do to help that situation, to foster that situation in America? And I looked at a variety of different things. And when the issue of paid family leave came around, I was frankly cold to the idea. Back in the 90s when I was in the House, I voted against the Family Medical Leave Act, which was an unpaid leave bill. And because I didn't think that mandating businesses to provide unpaid leave was the right approach. But the interesting about this is that we've looked at this issue and said, is there a way to do this without harming small businesses in particular, without putting new taxes on everybody else and new programs? And I give credit to folks like Marco Rubio, your senator, and Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, Kristen Sinema from Arizona, and others bipartisanly who have come together with ideas that don't create new mandates, don't create new taxes, don't create new programs, but use existing programs, existing benefits that flow to families, and allow families the flexibility to be able to take those benefits at a time when they choose it's most important for them to do. One of the bills says that we have a child tax credit that every year, families get. I think it's $2,500 maximum, per child as a tax credit. Well, what if a mom and a dad decided that at the birth of a child, we wanted to take an extended period of time off, a month or 2 months or 3 months off? Why don't we make that child credit available? The child credit that you're going to get for that child over the next 5 years, let's take a portion of the next 5 years child credit, move it forward to today, lower your benefit in the future, but give you more benefits today so you can take that time off, so you can spend with that child. And, you said you wrote down the numbers. Maybe your numbers are better than my memory, but the science behind the importance of those first few weeks and months of life of a child is just mind-blowing. How that bonding experience for that child being able to attach to a mom and or a dad, to give that stability and security, just dramatic improvements on mental health, on physical health, on education, on success in employment. I mean, you would say, wow, how can those first few weeks and months of life be that much of a determiner? But the reality is it is that much of a determinant, because all the wiring is being put in place in the brain, and having that sense of love and security and stability is just critical for the development of that child. And so I say to my fellow Republicans, I understand, you don't like government programs, you don't like this and that, but you love babies. And you care about the future of our country, and you want families to be stable and healthy. You can't, obviously prayer is great, but also doing something is great. And the status quo isn't working for these kids. Far too many are falling through the cracks. Far too many moms and dads are forced to go back to work, and that bond isn't established. And we have to do something to change that dynamic. And the parental leave provisions that both Marco is advocating, Cassie and others, to me is the way to go.
And it made sense. Some of the numbers that I looked at, it was like 48% of these folks that are going back, that have to go back to work, or they don't have the resources, will end up on public assistance. So there, we're going to end up paying, whether it's on food stamps or other things, they're going to end up paying for that. Forget the value that we're talking about to that family. I can't forget that. That's a wonderful thing. But to those that are just sort of hardened business folks saying, look, we need to see a return on our investment. There's a huge return on our investment by giving an alternative resource for them. And I believe that is what is being a real bipartisan effort that I believe is taking place. After taking the paid leave, mothers are 39% less likely to go on public assistance and 40% less likely to go on food stamps. There's your ROI for just the folks that are looking at economics of it. But then the long-term benefits for that child and for that family. I'm sorry to wax philosophical with you, but to Tocqueville, when he comes to America and he says America's great, because in essence, we are good people. That was his thing. America's good. And what he meant by that is it's churches, it's communities, it's families.
We care for each other.
We had a loving, compassionate side. I don't think that's ever government's role to be the love agent, but I do believe they can get out of the way, or they can use other resources to be able to support that. And I think that's what this is doing. I believe this is a wonderful tool. And again, it's bipartisan. It's not a philosophical, you're going to, want to jump into some of the divisive pools that are out there that we could be, but it's something that we can all be very supportive of. And you can do this without breaking the bank. Again, if you put it so that it's just on small businesses, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months for a small business to pay for this, in many cases would make it economically unfeasible or unlikely to take place. And so I think that and there'll be some nuances to the legislation, I'm sure. I know that our organization is made up of a lot of not-for-profit organizations. We have what we call community-based care. That's why I think Florida is strategically aligned to do a lot of this type of work and being supportive. And we have an area that we're working on economic self-sufficiency. So we do not want you to be on the government dole. It should be there to help you during times of crisis. That is a goodness piece. But on the other hand, what's really good is to get them so they can be economically self-sufficient. And I think this is what this is charging right down that path. Give me an idea. I know that I saw your legislative packet on how to use a great toolkit that was put together. Give our audience a sort of an idea of how they could engage in their own community. By the way, we're talking particularly here in Florida, but this will go across the United States. In fact, we got international folks watching our Nurturing Wellbeing with Kurt Kelly. So tell us how we could get involved in this.
We're talking about federal legislation here. I think it would be most appropriate to do something like this on the federal level. And the reason is because, as I said before, there are existing programs. The two approaches that I've seen so far, and there may be more that are coming, is to use existing government programs and give people options as to when to receive the benefits from these programs that they pay for in many cases. One is the Social Security program. Senator Rubio is an advocate of this, to take payments that you would get upon your retirement and delay your retirement by, let's say you want to take 2 months to spend with your child after the birth or adoption of a child. So you would take 2 months of your Social Security payments that you'd be getting, 30 or 40 years from hence, and you would delay your retirement by, if you take 2 months, you would delay it by 4 months. You say, well, that's not fair. I'm getting 2 months, but I'm delaying 4 months. Yeah, but you're getting that money now, not 30 years from now. So it's the time value of money. So again, most people would say, instead of hitting retirement at 67, I would be 67 in 4 months, but I get to spend the first 2 months of my life, of my child's life, with her. That to me is, those are choices. Now people would say, I don't want to do that. Okay, don't. But to give people the option to do that, to give people the flexibility to manage their own lives. I mean, that's one of the things that I like about these approaches, whether it's the Social Security approach, whether it's, as I mentioned before, the child tax credit approach, where you, instead of taking your $2,500 child tax credit for the next 5 years, you reduce your child tax credit by $500 over the next, 5 years, and you take $2,500 and you use it now so you can spend a month or two after the birth or adoption of your child to care for them. Again, you don't have to do it, but you have the option to do it. And to me, this is no new money, no new taxes. It's simply taking resources that you would be getting through payments in Social Security, things that you paid into, or in the case of the child credit, government program that's in place to help families to begin with, and giving families the flexibility to use it when they believe it's best for them and their family. I don't know why anyone would object to that. It doesn't make any sense to me that people would object to that. But hopefully we can build support for that by your network and others contacting their senators, both Republican and Democrats, because some of these, not all of them, but some of them are bipartisan bills, and try to get support for these ideas.
And we're going to do that because it's part of nurturing well-being. It's part of the whole picture of what we do. We don't want to have to wait for children to come into crisis before we start having to address these issues.
Yeah.
And, the federal government just passed the Family First Prevention Services Act, FFPSA. It's transforming our world. And really, one of the things they wanted us to do is get upstream, work before the folks ever get into crisis and come into our system. And they're putting resources behind it. Now, there's a lot of challenges with that right now because you get the government involved and there's always a bunch of red tape and, you get drawdown money for this. But I think they were on the right path with that. And so Florida we're engaging that. And this is part of that. So with all of this, let me just say, I think our audience would be one that gets really excited about this. We're going to continue to have more conversations around this and have a way to be able to address both at the state level and get the state to get to the federal level. I'm hoping to have my good friend. I served with Marco Rubio. He was the speaker when I was in the House, and the guy's got a great sense of humor. And so I enjoy it, but I never questioned his commitment to families and to children. And like yours, you use that as a great platform, an appropriate way when you served in the U.S. Senate and in your public life. But I want to thank you for not just stepping aside once you got out. You ran for president, didn't win, but you continue to advocate, and that's an important piece. I did the same thing. I ran for Congress. I didn't win. I'm kind of thankful for that, truthfully, and. But now here's where the Lord has me in this environment. And so we're not going to step away from this battle. This is an important thing. I believe it is part of the healing of America. If we refocus our attention on bringing love for children and families and doing what we can to support them and get it out of the finger pointing, we play an important role in that healing of America. And I usually close my calls I have like 200 and something folks on a Monday morning call where we do a conference call, and I'm telling all about what's going on in child welfare in Florida. I usually close with, let's be healers. Let's be peacemakers and healers. And I think this is what you're working on here. I want to thank you for using the gravitas, the influence that you've developed over years, and also the integrity that you have with these issues. And we're here to join you and support you in any way we possibly can. And we thank you for joining us today. I'll close with this, and I'll just say how much I appreciate your commitment to children and families. And I'm going to invite you to come to Florida. We'd love to spend some time with you here. We believe Florida has a lot of influence in this arena. And so, and with that, my best to you, father of the bride, as you get through this. I've got one married and one I think is coming, although I don't want to jump the gun here on that. But thank you for what you've done. And we look forward to working with you in the future. And thank you for joining us with Nurturing Wellbeing with Kurt Kelly. God bless.
Thank you, Kurt. God bless.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Nurturing Wellbeing with Kurt Kelly as we took a national approach. We had such a great interview with Senator Santorum, as well as Liza McFadden. Both are experts in their own arena, and both are working across the nation to engage early childhood development. And so we're excited about joining forces with them as we nurture well-being.